Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from all across the world. From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, we shed light on issues that shape our world. I am Joshua Barnes, live from the Firstpost studios. Let's begin with the top headlines. US President Donald Trump is to host Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House for high-stakes talks aimed at ending the near two-year war in Gaza, freeing hostages and disarming Hamas. Iran says it has executed a man describing him as one of Israel's top spies for allegedly working closely with the Israeli intelligence agency Mossad. This follows Tehran's crackdown on suspected spies after its 12-day war with Israel. Nepal imposes a travel ban on ousted Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli as part of investigations into the deadly unrest earlier this month that left at least 73 people dead and forced the government collapse. A Chinese court sentences 16 members of a Myanmar-based gang to death. The convicts were reportedly involved in cyber fraud, drug selling, prostitution and other crimes in a region bordering China. And German airline group Lufthansa says it will cut 4,000 jobs by 2030. The announcement to lay off nearly 4% of the company's workforce underscores the slump gripping Europe's largest economy. Hello and welcome. We start in Europe, where Ukraine has been battered by one of the worst drone and missile barrages from Russia since the start of the war. Ukraine says Russia fired hundreds of drones and missiles at Kyiv and other cities in a 12-hour assault that left 4 dead, including a child. The night sky over Kyiv lit up as air defences intercepted wave after wave of drones and missiles, but many slipped through, leaving fire, smoke and destruction behind. Ukraine's military said nearly 600 drones and 48 missiles were launched in total by Russia. The strikes didn't just rattle Ukraine, but also the neighbouring Poland, a NATO ally. Poland scrambled fighter jets to secure its skies, closing airspace in the southeast and amid fears Moscow's drones could drift into NATO territory. In Kyiv, homes were blasted apart, windows shattered, roofs torn off. One family said they were asleep when 2 missiles landed seconds apart. A child's bedroom, now covered in glass, shows just how close they came to losing everything. Another resident described being thrown to the floor by a blast wave as her daughter slept next to her. Paramedics rushed to treat children and the elderly as families picked through the rubble of their homes.
Look, if you have a look at the floor, you will see that all windows were shattered. There are a lot of glass shards. Honestly, we were lucky. Blackout curtains saved us as they withheld glass shards because they were designed to be thick. But if it had been a direct missile hit, we would not have survived. We live on the 10th floor.
I woke up and went to the entrance door, and at that moment I was hit by an explosion wave. Meanwhile, my boyfriend and my child were still in their beds. It was too late.
The attack left at least 4 dead and wounded over 80 others across Kyiv and other regions. Zaporizhia's governor said his city was hit 4 times, leaving more than 40 people injured. By the morning of September the 28th, Kyiv residents were out sweeping glass and clearing rubble, trying to salvage what little they could. Burned out cars and gutted apartments testified to a night of relentless strikes. President Volodymyr Zelensky condemned the quote-unquote vile attacks, warning that Moscow's aim is to plunge Ukraine into blackouts as winter approaches. He called on Europe and the United States to step up sanctions and air defense support, claiming Russia is even using oil tankers to guide drones.
We expect this week decisions from Europe concerning such pressure. At the least, a new sanctions package has to be launched. The 19th package. It is especially important that the sanctions hit hard on Russian energy commodities trade, on all infrastructure of the Russian tanker fleet. Moreover, there is now information from intelligence that the Russians are precisely using tankers to launch and operate drones, which are launched against European countries. This is just another reason why the Baltic Sea and other seas must be closed for Russian tankers, at least for the shadow fleet.
As Zelensky vows to continue responding to the Russian attacks, earlier today Moscow's regional governor said a Ukrainian drone strike killed 2 in a town outside of the capital. Russia's defense ministry said 84 drones were intercepted and destroyed by air defense alert systems during the night. More than 3.5 years into the war, Ukraine vows to continue striking back, not just on the battlefield, but also against Russia's economic lifelines. For families in Kyiv and Moscow, the battle is far from more than devastating as they continue to rebuild lives, while the threat of strikes and attacks from either side persists day in and day out. Let's now shift focus to some of the latest updates from West Asia. The United Nations has reinstated sanctions on Iran over its nuclear program. Tehran has condemned these sanctions as unjustifiable. In a statement, the Iranian Foreign Ministry called the move legally baseless. It also urged all nations to refrain from recognising the alleged illegal situation. Iran also vowed a firm and appropriate response. The Iranian parliament denounced the sanctions. It then went into a closed-door session likely aimed at discussing the country's response. Iran is reportedly also mulling abandoning the nuclear non-proliferation treaty and rushing to make a nuclear bomb. Meanwhile, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian said that the country was ready to overcome the sanctions.
Ultimately, it's not as if the sky will fall and we'll have to surrender if they go through with this. The reality is that with the measures we have in place, with the relationships we maintain with our neighbors, with the countries in Eurasia, BRICS, and the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, and with the interactions that have been forming, as well as with the people of our own country, and Iranians who care about Iran and the territorial integrity of the nation, and who believe in the dignity and pride of the Iranian people, we will be able to overcome this situation.
Now, these reimposed sanctions froze Iranian assets abroad, halted arms deals with Tehran, and penalise any development of Iran's ballistic missile programme, among other measures. The sanctions were initiated by Britain, France and Germany at the UNSC, while Iran's allies Russia and China opposed it.
Yesterday at the Security Council, the West rejected a rational proposal from China and Russia to extend the 2015 agreement on the Iranian nuclear program to allow time for diplomacy. This definitely exposed the West's policy of sabotaging the search for constructive solutions in the Security Council and its desire to extract unilateral concessions from Tehran through blackmail and pressure. We consider this policy unacceptable, and all manipulations to restore UN sanctions against Iran, as well as the sanctions themselves, are illegal.
These European nations accused Iran of violating a 2015 deal aimed at stopping the country from developing a nuclear bomb. However, Iran has repeatedly denied seeking nuclear weapons. In response, Tehran recalled its ambassadors to Britain, France and Germany for consultation. The European powers had also offered to delay the move conditionally to facilitate talks for a long-term deal. And now, with sanctions in place, the West is still pushing for dialogue.
Iran has created and armed a network of malign proxy forces destabilizing the region. In addition, it has for many years been engaged in a nuclear program which goes far beyond any plausible civilian use. For us, it is imperative. Iran must never acquire a nuclear weapon. Since Iran clearly does not comply with its obligations under the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action agreed to in 2015, we had no choice but to trigger the snapback of sanctions. Following a clear vote by the Security Council yesterday, sanctions will be effective later today. But let me emphasize, we remain open to negotiations on a new agreement. Diplomacy can and should continue.
Well, these sanctions followed failed diplomatic efforts aimed at reviving nuclear talks that were derailed after the US and Israel struck Iranian nuclear facilities in June this year. Now these new restrictions can add to Iran's economic woes. The country is already struggling with crippling US sanctions reimposed after Donald Trump's withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal in 2018. Moving on, over a month after Tata Consultancy Services announced cutting over 12,000 jobs, another IT major has followed suit. This time it is Accenture, one of the largest employers in the Indian IT sector. Accenture has confirmed that more than 11,000 employees have been let go in the past 3 months alone. The company says it is exiting employees who can't be retrained for the era of artificial intelligence, even as it plans to hire again in the next fiscal year. On an earnings call, Accenture CEO Julie Sweet said that the company is moving on a quote-unquote compressed timeline, letting go of people where upskilling is not viable. At the same time, she said the focus is on rapidly rotating talent into new AI roles. With more than 300,000 staff in India, Accenture is a pillar of the country's IT services sector. The company has also unveiled 2 divestment plans, projecting over $1 billion in savings. The cuts come in the shadow of TCS, India's biggest IT employer, which announced in August that it would let go of over 12,000 or 2% of its employees. But multiple reports and employee testimonies have cast doubt on that figure. A viral post on social media claimed that as many as 80,000 TCS employees may have been pushed out since the start of the year, with severance packages varying wildly. TCS responded, calling its speculation incorrect and misleading, insisting the impact is limited to just 2% of its workforce. Yet on the ground, stories of forced resignations, short notices, and even alleged harassment continue to surface. IT unions continue to voice criticism, warning that the real scale of layoffs is being masked by voluntary resignation pressures. One union estimates the number could be well above 30,000. Experts say what is happening at TCS and Accenture is just the beginning, and that the worst is yet to come. Industry analysts warn that thousands of IT jobs could be at risk in the next 2 to 3 years, particularly among mid-level managers, testers and infrastructure staff. Accenture, meanwhile, is pushing hard into artificial intelligence. It says it has doubled its AI and data specialists to 77,000 since 2023 and trained more than 500,000 employees in generative AI. The emphasis on artificial intelligence follows a global trend. In recent times, Meta, Microsoft and other tech giants have also cut thousands of roles while channeling investment into AI-driven positions. The message to white-collar professionals is stark: adapt to AI or risk losing jobs. For an industry that's helped build India's middle class and contributes over 7% to the country's GDP, the transition to AI seems to be unsettling. TCS, Adventure, Accenture and others are making it clear. Adapting to AI is now a necessity and not a choice. Let's now shift focus to the deadly Typhoon Bualoi that has ravaged Vietnam after battering the Philippines. The typhoon, which made landfall in northern Vietnam earlier today, has left at least 11 people dead in the country, while 20 still remain missing. The storm, the 10th to hit Vietnam this year, left behind a trail of destruction, with thousands of houses and businesses damaged or destroyed in at least 3 provinces in the country. Streets are flooded. Houses have been damaged. Even power grids were knocked out. The typhoon ripped roofs from buildings and uprooted electrical poles along Vietnam's coastline, leaving more than 347,000 families without power. Bualoi has so far damaged 245 houses and ravaged nearly 1,400 hectares of rice and other crops. It has also cut off access to several areas. The storm has now lost some of its strength and is headed towards Laos.
I've witnessed many storms, but in terms of wind power, this is one of the strongest I've ever encountered because of its intense gusts.
Bualoi moved along Vietnam's northern central coastline. Then it made a touchdown on the northern coastal province of Ha Tinh, with waves roaring as high as 8 meters. The storm brought intense rainfall and strong winds with it. That ripped off the roofs of houses. Authorities have issued warnings for floods and landslides.
The storm raged through the night. In my apartment building, most residents had to stay awake, holding on to their doors. During the previous typhoon, we didn't have to take such measures. But this time, if we didn't hold onto the doors, the wind would have blown them in. It went on like this all night.
More than 53,000 people were evacuated to schools and medical centres, converted into temporary shelters ahead of the typhoon hitting Vietnam. Airport authorities in the country say more than 180 flights have been cancelled or delayed as the typhoon shut 4 domestic airports in the coastal area. The authorities also grounded fishing boats in the northern and central regions. A part of the national highway was also shut down.
The waves were so strong that they slammed the boat to pieces. If I stayed there, I would have died, so I tried to swim to the shore and hope that rescue could come in time.
And before Vietnam, Bualoi claimed at least 24 lives in the Philippines. Bualoi was the second major storm that had threatened parts of Asia in a week. Earlier, deadly super typhoon Regasa, one of the strongest in years, hit the Philippines and China and dissipated over Vietnam. According to experts, storms like Bualoi are getting stronger and wetter due to global warming, and coastal nations with long shorelines like Vietnam are more vulnerable to bear nature's wrath due to their location. Well, that's all we have time for on the show today. We'll see you again tomorrow at the same time. Until then, thank you very much for watching.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.